So I left off talking last time about how blood cells are made, and red blood cells and mostly all of the white blood cells and the platelets are made in red bone marrow. And I had been not sure about where, especially sure about where all of the blood cells are formed. And they're formed in the flat bones, so it's true. They're formed in the pelvis, well, this isn't a flat bone, but they're formed in the top of the femur, which is a long bone. All of these bones, flat bones of the skull, clavicle, which would be on the front of the body, and sternum, and all around to the other side, and the ribs. So all of these kind of central areas, even the very top of the humerus has some red bone marrow formed there. In a baby, it's going to be pretty much in all the spaces in the bones. Okay. So structure of a bone. Long bones have cartilage on the ends. So here's a bone in a joint. Let's say it's I don't know, part of it's a simplified joint here. It could be a finger bone, could be a joint of the knee, kind of missing a few structures. But anyway, it's anything between two long bones, so elbow, shoulder. They're all shaped a little bit differently. So this is just a generic one. But this stuff right here is cartilage, the stuff in blue. And the reason that you have it is to protect your bones. So you figure if you have a bone that bends all the time, so it's going from here and then straight and then it bends again, back and forth, back and forth. Whenever these rub back and forth, if they were just bone to bone, it would be a painful rubbing. So you have this cartilage to protect them. And then there's this thing in red here called synovial membrane, and that releases this thing called synovial fluid, and that's a way to lubricate these joints so they're not rubbing together and hurting. If you have osteoarthritis, one of the things that happens is the cartilage starts to break down. Sometimes you have little bits of bone that will come in here in the joint, and that will hurt too. So cartilage also provides another function. It provides shock absorption, and one place is in the knee and another is in the back. So you figure the weight of your body, anything above the hips, the weight of your body is on the backbone, a lot of it. And so one of the things when you're walking, one of the things that happens is that you get some shock absorption here in the discs. These are called because they're between intervertebral. These are vertebrae, these two bones. Whoops, so this thing is an intervertebral disc. It's made out of a very strong type of cartilage, which separates these out. It allows for movement, and it allows for shock absorption. Your knees actually have this extra cartilage. So you have cartilage that's at the end of the bones, like I showed you in the last slide, but you have some extra cartilage that's made out of a tougher type of cartilage that's found here in the knees. For one thing, to stabilize it so it's not twisting side to side, but another thing is for shock absorption. And then there's this stuff here that holds bones together, and those are called ligaments. So a ligament holds bones together, and a tendon holds a bone to a muscle. So that's the difference between ligaments and tendons. So ligaments are these strong tissue type that holds bones together. It's made out of this thing called dense fibrous connective tissue, which has lots of collagen in it, which we've mentioned, I think, before. Collagen's a very, very strong protein that holds stuff together. So ligament holds bone to bone, like it would maybe right here. A tendon holds a bone to a muscle. So tendons hold bones to muscles. And let's go back for a second. This is the Achilles tendon, and you can actually feel that on your own leg if you feel right above your, right at your ankle. That thing's your Achilles tendon. Okay, bone development. This is kind of cool. In a fetus, most bones. This is kind of written wrong. In a fetus, most bones develop. Oh no, it's right. Develop from cartilage. And so in a little baby forming, here's the cartilage, and you start to form, this is called the primary ossification center. Os means bone, and ossification means to form bones. And so what happens is that you have all of the long bones start as cartilage. It's not true for flat bones. They have this actually dense fibrous connective tissue that starts off. But for lots of your bones, it's cartilage. And you end up calcifying, meaning putting cartilage down in your bone. And when that happens, you put cartilage down in the model, which is cartilage. when you put calcium in here, it makes it really hard, and there's no way for nutrients to diffuse in there because there's actually no blood vessels in here, and the cartilage cells that are in here rely just on diffusion. And so it's a little bit different in bones. But since they're relying on diffusion to get their nutrients and their oxygen, that stuff takes a pretty long time to get into cartilage, but it's not so bad that it can't work. If you put a bunch of calcium in here too, then the nutrients can't diffuse to the cells, and so the cells start to die. And so that's what happens here, the deteriorating cartilage matrix. That means the cartilage is breaking down and bone is replacing there. Bone is the coolest tissue ever because even though there's calcium, there are actually living cells in here. And you can tell because why would you have a blood vessel going into the bone if it weren't alive? So I'll show you this on a slide soon. But if these are bone cells, there's actually extensions through this material, this hard material with all that calcium in it, that connect the bones to each other. So even though the calcium kills the cartilage, calcium actually doesn't kill bone. Bone needs calcium to be very, very strong. So anyway, in this primary calcification center, or this primary ossification center, sorry, you start to put down bone material. And so you're putting down more and more bone. And then what happens later is this secondary area starts to ossify. So you start to make that, and this secondary area also starts to become bone. So what happens as you grow is that you've got bone here, bone out here, and bone here. But do you see this area right here? That's still cartilage if you're growing. And this is still cartilage if you're growing. So you grow right from the ends here. Your bones will continue to grow at the cartilage, and it's right at the edge of the cartilage that you're going to grow. And so I think I have a picture on the next page of, okay, so growth in length occurs at these things are called growth plates. So that thing right here, or that thing, cartilage at growth plate. When cartilage is gone, the bone stops growing. So that's what I was going to start to say earlier. Here's bone, and you can see it. Whoops, sorry, you can see it. I'm not trying to draw anything funky here. Here, I'm trying to draw it better. Oh my gosh, my drawing today isn't very good. Okay, so this part is bone. See how you don't see anything here? That's because there's cartilage there, and cartilage is a thinner tissue, and x-rays tend to go right through cartilage. But x-rays really can't go through bone. So the x-ray comes in, bounces off the bone, and I'm having a hard time showing you this in 3D, but comes in here, bounces off. You can imagine if I'm drawing that arrow up at you, that's the image that you can see in an x-ray. So here you can see there's bone, 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 bone everywhere. That person stopped growing. I don't see any spots where there's no bone. So this person's done growing. This person, though, look at all this area where there should be bone. That's all at this point cartilage. So this kid is still growing. Which type of connective tissue joins a bone to another bone? Okay, so a bone to a bone. Well, if you look at the first letter here, and you look at the first letter here, this one looks more like a bone in your arm, maybe. So bone to bone is ligament. I hope that helps you remember it. And conversely, the tendon is the bone to a muscle. So I tend to think of a bone like, whoops, of a bone like this, and a muscle kind of attaching to the bone, maybe off like this, which looks a teeny little bit more like a T than maybe a bone to a bone. Bone to a bone, maybe picture like that. So anyway, ligament is bone to bone, tendon is bone to muscle. What are the growth plates made out of? So um, they're not made out of bone because you'd be all done growing then. They are actually made out of cartilage because that entire bone starts out as cartilage. And that's the end of the skeletal system. Bye.